Hello and happy October. Hard to believe we have entered the last quarter of 2016, but that's kind of why I'm doing this video, is because, now we're into October, it's the last 3 months of the year, so I feel like it's kind of a natural time to be looking back at the past year and looking forward to next year. And I know a decent amount of people have been doing these kind of videos, what they're planning on using for 2017 in terms of their Analogue setup. I think part of that's because a lot of people are getting their Hobonichi 2017 orders, but I thought, you know what, it's a natural time to do it, so let's do it. So this is going to be a two-parter. The first part, I'm going to be looking at what I've been using in 2016 and what I'm currently using and what's kind of been working. And then in part two, I will talk a little bit about what I'm planning on doing going forward. Part two will probably be shorter than part one, but yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. So I also will not be linking any specific products. If I mention a blog post or something like that, I will of course link that in the appropriate place, either I'm trying to think of which way. There, right. I'm filming at a weird angle. Right below the video, if you're on YouTube, or if you're watching this on the blog or something, everything will be linked below the video there too. But I'm not going to link specific products because this video is not so much about the products, but about the system and the ideas behind it. So yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what I used in 2016, and that is everything you see here. So I think I've kind of done videos individually about all of these things, but I thought I would just kind of talk about it. I'm not sure the exact chronological order, but if I remember correctly, I kind of started out 2016 in my Hobonichi, and I was kind of going strong with that, and then when I started work, I was also using a 3.5 by 5.5. I was using a Field Notes, but I have this Story Supply Co. book here just as a placeholder. I think I was kind of using both of them, and then I know in the spring I switched over to the regular size Midori, and then for a while I was in the passport size Midori, and then I was kind of back in the Hobonichi, and then currently I've been in the Midori with a couple of various sort of incarnations of different notebooks inside, but for the past couple months I've been kind of flipping back and forth between the Hobonichi and the Midori, but I think I'm finally settled. So in terms of what worked, so I think 2016 was a year of me figuring out the system. So now I kind of felt like I had a good handle on the system, probably going into summer, and then it was just kind of figuring out what format is best for that particular system. And I've talked about this system before, and it's remained pretty stable. So what I do primarily is I have been sort of what I call bullet point journaling. It's not bullet journaling, not like the hashtag Bujo kind of stuff that you see a lot. It's just bullet point journaling. And let's see if I can find maybe something to show you. Yeah, so it's just kind of these bullet points sort of entries where it's more so about what did I do rather than how I feel. And I will talk a little bit about that. Well, I'll talk a little bit about that now, I guess. So a part of this whole honing in on the system thing, I think has been thinking about who am I doing this for, and why am I doing this? Why am I feeling compelled to write things down? In terms of keeping track of my schedule, that's obviously for me right now. And that is, to make sure that I am where I need to be when I need to be there. And that's part of why I have separated out calendaring. I was for a while sort of planning, but I wasn't really planning in any of these. That's why I have my phone sitting here, is because my phone is what handles all of my future plans, right? I do all of my calendaring digitally, because that way I can set it up to remind me when things need to be done and when I need to be in a particular place. So calendaring for me works best digitally, which then leaves all of this stuff as just sort of recording and cataloging. So it's okay, why am I doing this? And I think this was a revelation I had within just the past week or two maybe, is this idea of current me versus future me, right? Current me is me right now plus the very immediate future. You know, me right now, maybe plus me up to a week later, right? That is more or less current me. And then future me is me beyond that, right? Me a month later, me a year later, or 10 years later, right? It is me in the future. So I think thinking about it that way helps me to think about the kind of different styles that I see. And, you know, I feel like the very decorated sort of planners, that is for current you, right? That is so that when you look at your spread for the week, you know, you feel happy and you feel good about it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? If you're planning for current you, that works great. If that's what helps you get through the day and be excited about your day, that's great. That's awesome. Versus future planning, like recording for future you is, you know, I'm trying to think of the right words for this. What I realized was that future me didn't care about how cute it is or anything like that. Future me is only going to care that it's there, right? If I think about me when I moved here to Richmond a year ago, I wish I had some better records of that time. Like, I wish I had more kind of written down from that time about, like, what was I doing? And so, you know, future me doesn't care, you know, I am future me right now to that past me. And I don't care what format it would have been. And I don't care about how pretty it would have been. I just care that it's not there. So realizing that what I am doing this primarily for is future me has kind of helped me to let go of some of the hang-ups that I've had. So let's talk about what worked. That bullet point journaling has worked. Separating out the calendaring to digital format has worked really well. And then employing these 3.5 by 5.5 notebooks that I love so much, but like they're really kind of too small in terms of like using for like the journaling. Using these for specific projects has worked really well. So like this one in particular, I have been using to keep track of my yarn dyeing endeavors. If you are someone who watches from my knitting channel, I have been dyeing yarn lately. So this has just been an easy way to kind of keep track of like what dyes did I use, how did the yarn come out, stuff like that. So this is a very specific project that normally sits up on my shelf, and I pull it down when I need it and I use it when I need it. Same way I use a field notes for my like sort of gym workout notebook. That's great for that because, you know, it's small, it's portable, it's not super fancy, and it has a very specific task. So I feel like for me moving forward, these 3.5 by 5.5 notebooks are going to be great for specific tasks, but I am finding that I cannot really journal in them. And so that also kind of, and that is just, it's a size sort of thing. It just doesn't work well for me. And so that's also sort of ruling out the passport size traveler's notebook. So we'll talk a little bit about what these are going to be used for in 2017 in the next part. So I'm just going to slide those up. So these guys were working really well for me in terms of kind of doing that bullet point journaling. You can see that I was doing a lot of it in my Hobonichi, and I even went through and kind of filled in some of these blank spots that were used, that were in other notebooks. I just kind of went and found those old notebooks and put them in here so that I had it all in one cohesive place. And I was really thinking that the Hobonichi was going to be it for me. I thought that the Hobonichi was going to be what worked best. But when it came down to it, the Hobonichi has the problem of, you know, it's a day per page. So if I have a day where I'm doing more, that, you know, I'm limited by the size of the page. Or if I have a day where I do less, then I know some people go back and they use that empty space. I'm just not good about doing that. And so for the Hobonichi to really work well for me, I would kind of have to view it as like an undated notebook, which it of course isn't, and so like then what's the point? So then it kind of came down between the Midori and the Hobonichi, and what I decided the Midori has over the Hobonichi that I really like is that the Midori is it's like 8.5 inches in height, roughly. So that means that if I have a regular US letter size piece of paper or an A4 piece of paper, I can fold it into thirds and stick it into here. And that way I don't have to like fold it in half the hot dog style, I guess. And so it makes it easy to just stick a piece of full-size paper in here, fold it in thirds, or an envelope or something like that. Versus if I wanted to do that with the Hobonichi, I would have to fold it into fourths, and that just, I don't like that as much. So that is what kind of ruled out the Hobonichi for me. So currently, I am back in the standard size Midori. I've been in and out of this, kind of all year. I've mentioned before, this is actually not my cover. This is Wesley's cover. He bought it a while ago, and he likes the idea of it, but it just doesn't work as well for him. He's just not really an on paper writing things down sort of person, which is fine. So I've been using it. So I guess now I'll just kind of walk you guys through what I'm currently doing, and then we'll go to part 2 and we'll talk about what I'm planning on doing next year. So I have been just using, you'll see I don't have any charms or anything on it. It's just, I have this, but this normally is actually holding a 3x5 index card. So like this one has my notes for these videos on it. Normally I just sort of have an index card just shoved in here, and that's where I write my like to-dos for the day, because what I'm using this for is recording, right? It's not for, like the notebook inside is not for to-dos, it's not for planning, it's for things that happened. So normally I have my to-do list on the front here, and you guys have kind of seen this already as well in like my last video, where I also keep on my zipper pocket, I keep a list, just like a sticky note with a list of to-dos for work, and then on the other side is a list of to-dos for my personal stuff, and then this is the notebook that I have in here. And I have been using just a Pigma Micron. I like the Pigma Micron because it's, it's waterproof, it's archival, it's a really nice dark black color. I think that's another thing that I've learned this year, is that I really enjoy sort of doing this journaling in black ink, because then it all kind of looks the same, and I just really like that. So I've been using this because I carry this around with me all over the place. I talked about this in the video where I talked about this clear plastic pocket, but I have been, with the addition of this pocket, I've been using this notebook as sort of my wallet, I guess, but I only really carry 2 cards around with me. But because of that, and I have to, be pulling it in and out of my bag all the time, I didn't want to be using a fountain pen. So I've been using a Micron just because it's easily replaceable and I like the way that it writes. So that's that. This is another one of those Fabriano notebooks that I keep talking about all the time, and I really got to get a review done, and eventually it will happen. But then, so kind of what I'm doing in here is just, like I said, that bullet point journaling. So you can see I've also been adding just a bit of washi tape. This always comes after the fact. I never do this like the day of, but I've been adding just a little bit of washi tape just to kind of visually divide off the days so that I can look and see where one day ends and another day starts. And I just write down what I do. So you can see, if I have like a sticker or something that I get, I will put it in here, but there's not very many. And you can see I've started highlighting some things. These highlighter marks are just for things that I might want to go back and be able to see easily. So anything that's highlighted in pink, that's knitting stuff. So like I'll write when I, maybe finish a sock and start the next one, or when I turn the heel on a sock or something. And these are just so that I can visually see the progress that I was making on my knitting. Anything blue is stuff for work, and I don't highlight everything that I do at work. Like if I just write like, oh, I taught class, I don't highlight that. These are things for work that I might want to be able to come back and see later, like for projects, I will highlight the different pieces of a project as they're happening. So then later I can go back and see like, okay, when did I actually start and finish that project? So yeah, like it's not a ton of highlighting, but it is a little bit. So yeah, you can kind of just see that. Some days are longer than others. Some days are, short. Lazy days are short. And then this is actually the current day. This was yesterday, I guess this was the day before yesterday. Yesterday was October 1st. This was the day before yesterday. I decided to start recording just a little bit of the weather, just the high and the low, and then like sort of a little sketch of what the weather was like, only because, again, this is current me thinking about future me, and thinking, current future me thinking about past me, right? Now that it's fall, it's been raining a lot, and I was like, did it rain this much last year? Like, I don't remember fall being this rainy last year. So I decided, for the sake of future me, to just start briefly recording what the weather was like, so that if I was like, I wonder what the weather was like this time last year, I can just pull out these old notebooks and see. So that's a new thing I've started doing. It's not very complicated. I might go back and color it in later. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so I switched to a different washi tape. I decided that I was going to be doing a different washi tape every month. So now I'm into a Halloween one that has little ghosties and candy corn. And this is actually today, October 2nd. So you can see I didn't put any washi tape down or anything yet. I actually haven't written anything for the day yet. But, you know, I will... At the earliest, I'll go back and do this washi tape tonight. Otherwise, sometimes I do a couple of days at once if I've been busy and I just don't have time for it. Same with the highlighting. I kind of made a decision to do the highlighting only at the end of the month, because that way I can kind of look back and think about, like, what do I really want to remember from this month? So I'll go all the way through October, and then at the end of October, then I'll go back and highlight stuff that is of interest. So yeah, that's what's in there right now. And then sort of the back of that card thing, which is the same as what I had shown before, but I forgot to take my bank card out of it, so I'm not going to show too much of that. But yeah, that is sort of the current system. And then, like I said, my calendaring and planning is being done all on Google Calendar, because that's what we use through work, and that's what my personal calendar is on as well. So my phone just lights up all the time to give me alerts on what's going on with that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now, and that's what's working for me right now. And so I guess that'll be the end of part 1, and then we will go to part 2 and talk about what my plans are for next year.